This message comes from new Ali Precise Probiotics, expertly formulated to provide targeted benefits beyond your gut. Get precise with your probiotics and support your skin, stress response, or metabolism at a Walmart near you.
Sarah, in your opinion, what is the most undersung, most slept on reality TV show in the history of reality shows?
Can my answer be actually a documentary?
Go for it.
Okay. So, Holy Hell is a documentary about a cult. So the cult leader himself got different plastic surgery procedures, but he wanted to see what different things would look like on different people first before he got it.
What? That's wild. I mean, it's kind of like maybe like a new school version of getting your guard to eat your food to make sure it's not poison. I'll say that's very different from my answer. For me, it's Married to Medicine on Bravo. I feel like people focus on the housewives and the summer houses and like the Vanderpump of it all. But I love Married to Medicine. And I'll say this, it's a show that's very true to its title. It centers on women in Atlanta who either are doctors or are married to doctors. But do not let the basic premise fool you. This show is so good. And it's because the relationships on this show began so organically. Like many of these women were friends with each other, some for like decades before the show starts. So when their conflicts actually happen, they happen organically. And when they pay off, like it feels real, no matter how campy and ridiculous the show can get. And I'll say that idea that reality television can offer catharsis despite its obvious manufacturing is at the center of the debut novel from Sarah Wang called New Skin. New Skin just came out on May 12th and opens with 26-year-old Linli Fang. She's back home in Los Angeles for a few days. She's reluctantly taking care of her mom, Fanny, who is recovering from an infection in her face brought on by way too many back alley plastic surgeries. And if that weren't enough to handle, Fanny is eventually cast on a reality TV show where contestants compete for even more plastic surgery to fix the botched procedures they've already had. And Linli has to figure out how to navigate the tortured relationship she has with her mom amidst the shadowy underworld of bargain basement beauty. When I tell you this book had me going, okay? Come for a page turner, stay for a complex meditation on immigration, labor, and intergenerational trauma. To get into the extreme measures people take to have some agency in their lives and how that might couple with our obsession with reality TV, I'm joined by author Sarah Wang. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Hello, hello. I'm Brittany Luce, and you're listening to It's Been a Minute from NPR, a show about what's going on in culture and why it doesn't happen by accident. Your descriptions of Fanny's face, they feel straight out of body horror. Like you describe a creeping black scab on Fanny's cheek and the bruised tip of her nose, all purple and, quote, twisted inward as if it were trying to smell itself. And then you go on to compare her swollen face to, quote, proofed dough that had been punched down and was beginning to rise again. You don't just go through and describe like the disfigurement that can come from having way more of these procedures than I think any reasonable doctor would advise, but also like how gruesome the healing process can be from these things if your body even gets the opportunity to do that. In an interview with People magazine, you said you wanted to write about ugliness as a virtue. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, so I pretty much exclusively write about immigrants in all of my writing, whether it's nonfiction or fiction. And personally, I'm not really interested in writing these good girl stories of immigrants who behave well and who get A+ in school and go on to marry a white guy in finance, let's say. Mm-hmm. I'm more interested in depicting a reality that I'm more familiar with, which is intergenerational debt, struggling, single parenthood, and it's more interesting to me to write stories with characters who subvert these expectations of what an immigrant and a woman should and can be in America. I'm always interested in this idea of failure as a place to begin. So instead of Fanny getting so much plastic surgery and being the most beautiful woman in the world, what if she gets so much plastic surgery that's botched and she becomes disfigured? Then what do you do? How do you begin from there once you can no longer rely on these kind of patriarchal values of marrying well or being the most beautiful woman in the world for capital?
It's interesting, too, because it seems like Fanny, when she came to the United States from Taiwan, she was like initially almost disturbed by the type of beauty, like physical beauty, that she would one day covet and hope to achieve. And even that in and of itself is so interesting to me. Like, really points out like how malleable our conceptions of beauty are.
Yeah, I think that's true. And also, something else that I'm playing with is when Fanny is confessing these things, it's on a TV set. Mm-hmm. And so you don't really know what she's exaggerating and what is truth. There's this idea of immigrants and difference and what do you do to fit in? Who's allowed to reinvent themselves in America and at what cost?
Even like the idea of like assimilating or just figuring out how to get by. Fanny is she's actually quite adept at understanding what might be appealing for the producers or the audience to hear. Like, it makes sense that that's a skill that she would have had to develop to get along in this new country that definitely in many ways was not exactly kind to a woman like her.
Yeah, I think for Fanny, it's ironic, right? Because in some ways she's telling this story about her arrival in America and starting to get all of these cosmetic procedures and plastic surgery. And the narrative is that she's in some way trying to fit in and become more like the people around her. But the opposite has actually happened. She has become less and less like the people around her.
I mean, it seems like she's begun to look less and less like a person the way you describe her.
Exactly. And so there's an irony there. She's hiding within her face, even though it's very loud. And sometimes the way to hide is not in shadow, but in too much light, which also, relates to her being on the show. And this premise of a reality show is to confess and to be real and to show everything. But it's likely a lot of it is not real and it's fabricated.
We're going to take a quick break, but first, if you're a longtime listener or brand new to It's Been a Minute, be sure to come back every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday for brand new episodes. And did you know you can make it even easier to get new episodes by hitting the follow or subscribe button on your favorite podcast app? Whether you're a new friend or a loyal bestie, join the team by subscribing today. Coming up after the break.
If you work hard enough on your looks to get a new nose, to buy a new face, then you can ascend your class.
Stay with us.
This message comes from BetterHelp. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, a reminder that you don't have to do this life alone. From loneliness to anxiety to financial stress, right now people everywhere are struggling. But having a licensed therapist with you by video, phone, or chat can make a difference. And BetterHelp makes it easy. Sign up now and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/NPR. That's betterhelp.com/NPR.
This message comes from Capital One Commercial Bank. Your business requires commercial banking solutions that prioritize your long-term success. With Capital One, get a full suite of financial products and services tailored to meet your needs today and goals for tomorrow. Learn more at CapitalOne.com/commercial. Member FDIC. This message comes from Babbel. Babbel's conversation-based language technique teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/NPR. Spelled BABBEL.com/NPR. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This message comes from Prolon. Want to look and feel your best this spring? Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet is a clinically developed nutrition program with the goal of promoting fat loss while protecting lean body mass. Developed at USC's Longevity Institute, it aims to assist the body in entering a fasting-like state that helps reset metabolism, target visceral fat, and support healthy metabolic markers. Get 15% off plus a bonus gift when you subscribe at prolonlife.com/NPR.
I want to turn, though, and talk about Fanny and Linli's relationship. Many of Linli's happiest memories are from before she turned 8, like before her mom had her first procedures, a facelift, eyelid reconstruction, and a nose job. After these procedures, Linli doesn't speak for a month and starts failing her classes. Linli's relationship to her mother's face, it reminds me of like the other mother in Coraline, like the children's movie, or the monstrous mother in the horror film Goodnight Mommy. In both cases, like with Fanny, the mom is in a way replaced by a mom-like monster that the children are at the very least unsettled by, and beyond that, like really mortally frightened by. It's something that I've seen in horror before, and it's something that I think you used to a really interesting effect in this book. Why is this so effective, do you think, as a horror trope, the idea of like an almost mother replacing your mom?
Well, as children, you really only have your parents who are everything. They provide for you. They're kind of godlike in this way because you only can depend on them, not only for shelter and safety and food, but also as guidance and a kind of encyclopedia for the world and a map for what's to come. So when Fanny gets a facelift, when Linli's 8 years old, this kind of map of the world told through her mother's face and a sense of safety and belonging is completely obliterated. And it's a bit terrifying.
Gosh. I mean, that's a young age, too, to kind of be able to process that.
And if you think about the mother's face and how important that is as an interface for the world, you know, think about when a baby is breastfeeding, they're just looking up at the mother's face, you know, and the mother's making faces back at them. They learn to read the mother's face. Am I being good? Am I being bad? Is she soothing me? Is she smiling at me? And when you're so young, you're still developing your sense of the world, your sense of yourself. Imagine if that signal of the face is jammed and then thwarted, and you can no longer read the world.
Your book definitely explores what it's like for Linli as an adult to be trying to make sense of the aftermath, not just of those initial procedures, but of her mother basically revising her looks over and over and over and over again. So much of this has to do with Fanny trying to hide or trying to withstand or understand her own trauma. I mean, but her story, it comes out kind of in drips and drabs. Like it doesn't come straight out. It comes out in fits and stops. Every so often, like Fanny will be momentarily candid about the ways she was exploited at a low-paying nail salon or a restaurant job after coming to America from Taiwan, for instance. But then she'll close up before Linli can get a fuller picture of her mom's history. At a certain point, one of Linli's colleagues says, "We'll never know everything about our parents, and what we think we know is a made-up story that bridges vast gaps and fills in blanks." I even feel this sometimes with my own mother, not so much that tons of things are missing, but just the idea that she's never going to be totally knowable to me. I think it probably exists on both sides of the parent-child relationship, but there's like almost like a disadvantage that you're working at as a kid in that you have to play catch up. I am curious, like, why did you want so much of Fanny's story to remain a mystery to both Linli and the reader?
I think what you said just now is exactly what I'm trying to locate in this kind of massive heartbreak that we feel in not being able to know our parents fully. And I think that's true with any relationship. You're never going to know your partner 100% completely because they had a life before you and they have other lives outside of who you know them to be. But one of the things that we deal with is having to come to terms with not being able to know everything fully, especially our parents. How do you live with that kind of deep sadness that you'll never be able to know them in the way that you want? I think you have to come to terms with them being their own people and having their own lives.
Your book focuses on American beauty standards as perceived by a group of Asian women, including some who are undocumented, exploited at low-paying jobs, or marginalized in other ways. Like, these are stories that don't often make it to the mainstream, let alone with any sensitivity or nuance. What did you want your readers to consider when reading about these women taking these great risks to pursue a certain aesthetic?
At the heart of this novel, it's always about the immigrant story and all the concerns of meritocracy, of reinvention in America so that you can prosper, so that you can have a new and better life. All of those kind of immigrant concerns are embedded within the plastic surgery and reality TV plots. We live in an aspirational society, and that's what capitalism is based upon. And then for a character like Ami, who is a young, undocumented immigrant who works at an illicit med spa, in the book, I think she says something like she wanted a high-class nose so that she could marry a high-class husband. And this is the idea of kind of plastic surgery as meritocracy. If you work hard enough on your looks to get a new nose, if you work this labor to buy a new face, then you can ascend your class.
And you won't need to work anymore. It's like you put all this labor into your face and then the face will unlock all of the doors for you.
Absolutely. And this is like kind of, again, these old school patriarchal values that we instill into girls and young women since time immemorial. Sure, work hard, go to school, get a law degree, make a lot of money, but also you can marry rich, especially for people who are marginalized, who grew up in poverty. You'll do anything to get ahead. And maybe it's relying on this kind of idea of lookism to succeed.
So much of what you're talking about right now, it comes through in Linli and Fanny's relationship. There's this idea, I think from previous generations, that like you had to look a certain way or invest in your appearance because a man was going to take care of you. Because in previous generations, like, you know, my mom was born in the 50s. That's how our society worked. And that's the world that she was raised in. And some of that traditional thinking, you know, was definitely present in the way that I was raised. Now, my mom wasn't super gung-ho on all that, and I never really bought into it, but I do understand the tension between how generations of the past see the world and how I see it. And like on some level, I have the luxury of not thinking about that stuff so much because of the sacrifices and the strides made by the women of my mom's generation. I don't know if that's exactly what you were thinking with Linli and Fanny, but that's something that I took away.
That's exactly what I was trying to get across. And I think my book, while it kind of charts these different dynamics between a first and second generation immigrant and the pressures that they're facing, my story is also a cautionary tale against Well, if you think that you're going to be able to rely on a man for the rest of your life for safety and sustenance, no, you're not. If you think that you're going to be able to rely on beauty to get ahead, no, you're not. But then what? What do you do when you've lost these ideals of how you're supposed to be? You know, these kind of false ideals that we hang our hats on. What if these false ideals are foreclosed to us? Then what?
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking with me about your new book. Congratulations on your debut.
Thank you so much for having me.
That was Sarah Wang, author of the book New Skin, which is out now. This episode of It's Been a Minute was produced by
Corey Antonio Rose.
This episode was edited by
Nina Pathak.
Our supervising producer is
Cher Vincent.
Our executive producer is
Barton Girdwood.
Our VP of programming is
Yolanda Sanguini.
All right, that's all for this episode of It's Been a Minute from NPR. I'm Brittany Luce. Talk soon.
This message comes from MIDI Health. Co-founders Dr. Kathleen Jordan and CEO Joanna Strober discuss why they started a virtual care platform for women in perimenopause and menopause.
The symptoms and experiences that women have in midlife, I think, were underappreciated or possibly even trivialized. The changes of perimenopause and menopause create a broad spectrum of symptoms and can actually lead to long-term health issues, but too few clinicians are trained in it.
I also want to add, often the type of care that women are needing is very iterative. It requires trying different medications, learning about their body, and learning how to take care of themselves. And so what we've tried to do at MIDI Health is create a new type of care system that is responsive to women's needs and helps them take care of themselves and stay healthy instead of just treating disease.
MIDI Health, committed to helping women in midlife with perimenopause and menopause care, accessible via telehealth visits at joinmidi.com.
This message comes from Babbel. Babbel's conversation-based language technique teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/NPR. Spelled BABBEL.com/NPR. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This message comes from Bombas. Your feet hit the ground an average of 2,000 times in a mile. Bombas sports socks are designed to support you every step. Sprint to bombas.com/NPR and use code NPR for 20% off your first purchase.